I don't care about none of that. I got more money than most of the people in this thing.
I was sitting there like, what are we gonna do? He's like, it's nothing I can do. You know, the strap is in the car. It occurred to me that he thinks I set him up. What's up, you guys? And thank you so much for tuning back into Taylortimetv. My name is Taylor. So in today's episode, we're gonna do a story time of my worst date ever. Now, you guys know, if you watched my previous videos, I've had a lot of bad sugar daddy dates. If you guys want me to do one of those sugar daddy date videos, I can. So let's just get right into the story. I met this guy on Instagram.
You know what I'm saying? Slid in the DMs, you feel me?
I was thirst trapping. I was trying to
catch me one.
We're gonna call him B. B slid in my DMs. I'm like,
who is this?
I've always been skeptical about Instagram DMs. I looked through his page and I seen he was kind of, you know, I guess you would say,
baller.
Money, he got money. I do want to say this guy was Arabic. Now, the only reason why that's important is because it's gonna come into play later in the story. He owns a business here. His business is very popular in my city. I don't want to say what it is. That's gonna definitely come back into the story. Just keep that in mind. So we're talking and he's like, I want to take you out on a date. I want to get to know you. And I'm like, okay, well, you know, let me see what this guy is about.
He's like, okay, where do you want to go out to eat?
Like, well, let me just go ahead and try to throw him a test. So I'm like, what's the place I can say we can go out to eat that's expensive? But if, you know, anything went wrong on the date, I know I could still afford my own tab. You know, because I like to think ahead of time. So I was like, well, let's just go to Ruth's Chris. So if you guys don't know what Ruth's Chris is, I will attach a picture here. It'll also be on the thumbnail. He was telling me, you know, I still have to work. I work every day. So we're going to have to wait until I get off of work. And at this time, it was like about to be closing by the time he got off work. I remember
waiting and waiting and waiting.
Like, oh my gosh, he was already late to the date. I'm like, what's going on? He's like, I still have customers coming in. I was being pretty reasonable about that. I'm like, okay, but at the same time, Ruth's Chris, I think, closed at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, probably 10 o'clock, and it was already like 8:30. He was telling me to meet him at his business, leave the car there, and we would drive to Ruth's Chris from his business. So I drove to his business. I met him there. I get in his car. At this time, I think he had his Mercedes-Benz. That's important too. So we go to Ruth's Chris, you guys. We got in there and they were so annoyed because we were super late.
And they were not feeling us.
They were telling us half the food we wanted wasn't even on the menu. I'm like,
okay, let me get a stuffed chicken breast with some macaroni and some mashed potatoes.
And they're like,
we ain't got mashed potato.
I'm like,
how you don't have mashed potato?
We ain't got it, we out of that. I'm
like, can I get broccoli?
We out of that. I'm like,
okay, well, what do you have?
They're like, we have shoestring fries.
I'm like, shoestring fries? If you guys don't know what shoestring fries are, if you have a Steak and Shake, it's those little skinny ass fries that don't got nothing in them. You just eating chips. You're basically eating chips. I'm like, why would I eat a chicken breast with some fries?
But okay.
I am not by far bougie. I'm very much bougetto, okay?
Bougetto, okay?
But we're in a nice 4-star, 5-star restaurant. We don't have things like that really in our city. So this was like a little upper echelons at the time for what it was. So I'm sitting there trying to be cute, cutting my little chicken, making sure my napkins on my lap. I'm trying to be a classy lady because we're around some classy people.
Do y'all know this fool
sat there and grabbed the chicken breast off the hot ass plate? The
plate was hot as hell.
And just went to town. He was like, I was like,
oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed.
So I was like, hey B, you're not really supposed to eat your chicken like that. Like, it's a chicken breast. Don't just tear it apart and y'all, he's talking about some.
I don't care about none of that. I got more money than most of the people in this thing.
So I'm like,
no one said you were broke.
no one said you were broke. I said, it wasn't classy. I said, we're in a nice restaurant. We're not at
The local chicken shack.
on the corner where little JoJo and them just gonna
Whip us up a little plate or something.
come on now, like, let's be real. Let's be a little bougie.
Let's get our inner bougie out.
You know what I'm saying? I
I
don't
feel like I was wrong in that.
At this point, the waitress is lingering on like,
The kitchen is closed.
So we went ahead and paid for our food, and we really just sat there, and the waiters and the waitresses, they were all being super annoyed with us because we were the last people in there. We were the only people in there. We get done, we leave the restaurant. We didn't have bad chemistry or anything besides that little snapperoo he thought he got off. Other than that, we were pretty decent. We were getting along. We were enjoying each other's company. It was still early. We still wanted to hang out. We still wanted to kick it. So he was telling me, we could just go back to my business. It's a little employee lounge in the back of the business, and we could just kick it there. I parked my car right behind his Benz. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that, you guys. My little honey thing was asking me what size shoes I wear, so I had to answer that. It's a business. It has a counter. So we walk behind the counter, and behind the counter is a big lounge room. It had some couches, maybe a table, and a bathroom. Now, he has this big screen TV placed on the wall. And in that big screen TV, there were about 4 different cameras placed like in the business and outside of the business. So I'm watching the cameras, and we're playing our music. We're just chilling,
Smoking, smoke.
just getting a vibe. And I'm looking at the cameras. I forgot to mention his business was in
The hood.
Ghetto. The ghetto.
That is so important to the story. I'm sitting here like, oh, that's really smart that you guys have cameras, because I'm sure it's all types of things going on. We are watching it. You might see
You random crackhead, okay, you see somebody doing a donut.
okay, usual hood activity.
Usual hoodery.
Nothing out of the ordinary. All of a sudden, we're like watching the cameras, and we see this car pull up behind my car. He's like, hold on, I'll be right back. And I'm like,
What do you mean, hold on, you'll be right back?
I walk behind him, so he goes back in the room and goes around the corner to the front of the business. I'm kind of like lagging behind him because I want to know what's going on. I couldn't really see anything on the camera. Next thing I know, we're looking in the window. It's a storefront, so there's a big glass window. And I'm like peeking just a little bit, and we see these 4 guys with red bandanas. One had a red bandana, one had a blue bandana, one had on a ski mask. Get out of this car from behind my car and get into his car. And he's like,
Get back, get back.
oh my God, what's going on? Are they stealing the car? And he's like, yeah, they're stealing the car. Like, don't say anything. I'm like, what
What are you about to do? Like, do you have a gun?
What if they come in here right now and decide, oh, we want to take everything in this
Motherfucker.
and maybe we want to
Take you.
I am freaking out at this point. He's like, be quiet, shut up. They don't know we're in here. The lights were all off. I'm thinking at any moment, they're going to spot us and they're going to come in here and they're going to rob us. They might even kill us, now that we've seen them. I'm just thinking
The worst.
Next thing I knew, they were gone. They had skirted off. They were like,
They were out of there.
call me fucked up. But all I was thinking was,
My Ruth's Chris leftovers were in there.
now I ain't got no leftovers. My date is ruined.
What I was gonna do?
He's making these calls. He's speaking in this different language. I don't know what he's saying. Like, he's going around the store kicking shit. He's throwing shit. He's cursing. It's like a little bit of English, a little bit of not English. I don't know what to do. His people pull up. Like, I guess they didn't live far. They pulled up, and it was like maybe his older cousin and maybe like his brother. I don't know who these people were, but they pull up and they're speaking this different language. And I'm kind of noticing
they're looking at me and they're pointing at me.
And you know how you can just tell body language? You know how you go in the nail salon and you can just tell
They're talking about your ashy feet.
You don't have to know the language. You just know they're talking about you. Because they're like, you know, I don't speak the language. I'm not making fun of the language. But at the time, you know, I'm drunk. I didn't had a couple glasses of wine. And I'm just hearing them looking at me and pointing at me. And at this point, it occurred to me that he thinks I set him up. Especially the city we come from, people are really grimy in this city. It's our first date, and on the first date, you get carjacked. And I'm seeing him kind of like speaking back to them. It's getting volatile. Next thing I know, the police came. I'm like, yeah, it's time for me to go now. Class tomorrow morning. So I left in my car. I had like a little old Benz. Like, you guys, I think I had like an '02 Benz. So I just drive off in my regular '02 Benz. I'm like, look,
I just got a regular old Benz.
You got a new Benz. They wanted the new Benz.
Who wouldn't want the new Benz?
If there's an old Benz next to a new Benz and you're a robber, you're not gonna take the old Benz, and then this full car has to be unlocked, because how did they even get in the car? It had to be unlocked. But it was so weird how they pulled up like they almost knew. I don't know. You guys tell me in the comments what you think about that. Were they looking for this car? Were they looking for this man? Did they know his schedule? Or was it just by chance of opportunity? He called me the next day and he's like, my business partner / family member was telling me that, you know, you might have had something to do with it. And I'm like, I didn't have anything to do with that. I don't even know people that would do nothing like that. I had something to do with that. I would have got in the car with them
and drove off into the sunset.
I wouldn't have been sitting there with you, because you could have done anything to me at that point if you figured out what it was. So hard to prove your innocence when you know you did nothing wrong. I'm just pleading my case. And he's like, relax, relax. I told him you don't have anything to do with it. I don't feel like you're capable of that. You know, you're really not that type of girl. I don't get that vibe from you. It was just absolutely crazy. That was my worst first date ever. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys are liking this, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I need you to go back and binge the last episodes and catch up on the new episodes. And I'll see you guys in the next one.